Sometimes you have to redact information to keep it private, and based on the PRIA definition, PRIA is the Property Records Industry Association, redaction is the act of covering or otherwise removing from the public record or public view any sensitive, private, or confidential information. Basically what that means is getting rid of any sensitive data if you're going to provide it to the public. Now, if you're working with digital images, that also means the metadata, the data that's not necessarily viewable on the image itself, but the digital breadcrumbs inside of the file itself. So that metadata needs to be removed as well. We're going to talk about the document redaction process, but before you actually start redacting files, you need to think about who has the ability to do it. Now, you have physical files right now. So let's say you have physical records, but you want to digitize them and then redact them. Well, right now, if you have physical records, hard copies, and you need to redact something, who has the ability to do that? What's the approval process to redact? There's got to be some process that if a file is going out, maybe someone requests some information, there's got to be a process on what has to be redacted, who has to redact it, who's going to approve that before it's provided to the requesting person. Also, what you need to think about before digitizing redacting is, do you want this to be a permanent or semi-permanent redaction? For example, if you have records that are going to be available to the public, like public view, you might want some of those redacted, certain pieces of information, but that doesn't necessarily mean you want the actual original file or the complete digital file redacted so no one can see it. So you maybe want your staff to be able to view the sensitive information, but not the public. You don't want them to be able to view it. So there's a difference between completely redacting, a permanent redaction, no one can see it and all that data is gone, whichever parts you redacted, or there's that semi-permanent redaction, which maybe certain people can't see it and other people can. Or if it is redacted, you could maybe redact a file in the digital version, export, print it out, provide them a copy of that redacted version, but then you can go into the digital version and remove the redaction for future use. Some of the first steps for moving forward with digital redaction is know why you need to redact the files in the first place. You need to know not just why you need to redact it, but what you need to redact as well. And what you can do is go to the regulation or statute. Maybe it's a state statute that requires redaction on certain files. If there is no statute, then it might just be an internal process or an internal requirement. But a lot of times for redaction, there is a reason and a description of what needs to be redacted for files that are going to be provided to folks. Classic examples of information that is redacted are social security numbers, names, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, and addresses. Those are very common examples. It can really be a lot more information than that. Again, it's tied to usually personally identifiable information or just sensitive information that needs to be removed before records can be shown to the public or provided to a requesting party. So those are the types of information that are very common in redaction processes, but there can be more as well. And the types of projects that we see that are most common are someone will contact us and say, hey, I have these files or maybe these hard copy records, I want them scanned, and then I want certain information redacted. So that would just be a classic redaction project. Or maybe they already have digitized files and maybe a couple million images and they want to have information redacted from those images. So that would just be a redaction project. Like that's the goal of the project, is to get these files redacted so they could use them in some other fashion. And that would basically entail finding a company like ours or other folks that do redaction, working with them on the scope of the project, determining what information is going to be redacted, how it will be redacted, and the price associated with that, and then moving forward to actually execute the project. That would be a pretty classic example of a redaction project. Another method that we see with our clients is we have our digital reel secure hosted platform, which includes the ability to redact. And once you're in that secure platform, you can do it yourself when you need to make those redactions. So if you do have millions of records, instead of actually going through all of those and paying for the redactions on all of them up front, not even know if you'll need those records later, what you can do in Digital Reel is wait till you get a request or need a file for something, and then you find that file, do the redaction on that, maybe provide it to a requesting person or requesting authority, whatever it is, and then be done with it. But you're only redacting that one file when it's needed. Also in Digital Reel, you have that ability to do semi-permanent redaction. So if you have the files and you create a redaction on a file to provide to someone, once you get them that record, you can remove the redaction for internal use. So it's not permanently removing the information that you may still need, it's just redacting the information for the requesting person. So that's another way to do this, where if you don't know that you really need to redact all that information across all the files, you can do it on an ad hoc or an as needed basis within Digital Reel. If you're trying to find a company that can do redaction services for you, you're just trying to find out ways to do it, you can look up document scanning companies. I put quotes because that would be the term you're looking for. If you look up document scanning or record scanning companies, you'll find companies like ours, or you can also type specifically redaction services, like a Google search or something, and find companies that have information about those types of services so you can vet them and see if they're right for you. And like I mentioned before, in the classic types of projects, compare the cost of having it done, outsourced, working with a company, having it all done as part of an entire redaction project, or doing it yourself internally in the sense of you have a tool that you redact when you need to. So there's that upfront cost of doing all the records that you may or may not need, which you may have to do that either way. So that might be a requirement. Or if you're just thinking, I need redaction, do I want to do them all up front, maybe not knowing if I need everything redacted? Or should I do it on an ad hoc basis, do it internally where I don't spend that money up front? Yes, there's a little work later when I have to do it ourselves. We have to do it ourselves with our staff and do redactions as they come in, but we're not spending all that money up front. We can use that for other projects. So make that comparison and see which one is right for your specific requirements. That's your overview of redaction. Now, if you are looking for redaction companies, make sure you find folks that have the security background to work with that sensitive information in the first place. What I'm going to put right here is our BMI annual internal security audit video, so you can watch how we audit ourselves internally in addition to our third-party audits and see how we protect your records during projects. Also in the link below is going to be a link to contact us if you want to work with us or have questions about redaction or document scanning projects. Thank you for watching.